Welcome to the course Compiler Design. In this lecture, we are going to start second unit, which is the second phase of compiler, syntax analysis or parser. So in first unit, we discussed about introduction to compilers, then phases of compilers, then compiler construction tools. Then later we studied the first phase, which is called as lexical analysis, also called as scanner. So now we will continue with the second phase, which is called as syntax analysis or parser. So in syntax analysis or parser, we are going to cover the following topics. First, we will see the introduction about syntax analysis or parser, then context-free grammars, same as formal language and automata theory. So in parser or syntax analysis, context-free grammars are used, like in lexical analysis or scanner, finite automaton and regular expressions are used. So here context-free grammars are used. Then writing a grammar, here eliminating ambiguity and removing some other factors. Then syntax analysis or parser consisting of two types. One is top-down parser, another one is bottom-up parser. So we will study these two. Then in bottom-up parser, one of the technique which is called as LR parsing. So here we will discuss about various types of LR parsers, like simple LR, then canonical LR, look ahead LR. So many parsers are there. Then comparison of LR parsers, then using ambiguous grammars, then finally parser generator. Here parser generator is nothing but YACC at another compiler like lexical analyzer generator, we have lex tool, like parser also we have generator, so which is called as YACC at another compiler. So now in this lecture, first we will discuss about introduction to syntax analysis. So in introduction, first we will see the role of the parser, then representative grammars, then syntax error handling, then various error recovery strategies. So now you can recall once the phases of compiler. In that we discussed a little bit about the introduction about phases of compilers as well as each phase. So syntax analysis or parser also we discussed. Syntax analysis or parser, which takes input as output of lexical analysis, that is token. Then syntax analysis or parser can represent the tokens into hierarchical form, which is called as a tree, that is called as syntax tree or derivation tree or parse tree. So that is the output of syntax analysis or parser. So by design, every programming language has precise rules that prescribe the syntactic structure of well-formed programs. For this purpose, for example, in C language, a program is made up of functions. A function out of declarations and statements, a statement out of expressions, and so on, like all these combinations. Now, the syntax of programming language constructs can be specified by using context-free grammars. So also BNF notation, that is Backus-Naur form notation. So actually the grammar syntaxes can be defined by using BNF notation. Now, this is the use of context-free grammars here. The syntax of programming language constructs can be specified by context-free grammars or BNF notation. The parser then determines the syntax or structure of a program. That is, it checks whether the input is syntactically correct or not. So this is the role of the parser. It checks whether the input is syntactically correct or not. So syntax or structure of a program. So then grammars offer some significant benefits for both language designers and compiler writers. Now, what are those benefits? A grammar gives a precise yet easy to understand syntactic specification of a programming language. This is one of the advantages. So grammar advantages for both language designers and compiler writers. The second advantage, from certain classes of grammars, we can construct automatically an efficient parser that determines the syntactic structure of a source program. So with the different classes of grammars, we can construct automatically with an efficient parser further that determines the syntactic structure of a source program. As a side benefit, the parser construction process can reveal syntactic ambiguities and trouble spots that might have slipped through the initial design phase of a language. So here identification of errors. So for that also grammars plays important role. So next one, the structure imported to a language by a properly designed grammar is useful for translating source program into correct object code and for detecting errors, like the role of compiler transforming the source program into other form. But the other form is in correct object code and for detecting errors. Then another advantage, a grammar allows a language to be evolved or developed iteratively, repeatedly, by adding new constructs to perform new tasks. These new constructs can be integrated more easily into an implementation that follows the grammatical structure of the language. So from one grammar to designing some new constructs by integrating. So those are all useful for implementation of the grammatical structure of the languages. So these are all the advantages of grammar for both compiler writers and designers. Now coming to the role of the parser. So the role or position of the parser in the phases of compiler. So now onwards, in place of syntax analysis, parser will call it as, syntax analysis will be called as parser. Now the approach is called as parsing. So how to define a parser? Parser, also called syntax analyzer, is the one which does parsing. Parser or syntax analyzer will do parsing. Parsing means derives the strings. Based on that derivation, we can take decisions. The string is derived or not. Now, what is the definition of parsing? Parsing is the process of getting tokens from lexical analyzer and obtains a derivation for the sequence of tokens and builds a parse tree. This is the concept of parsing. So is the process of getting tokens from the lexical analyzer, which is output of lexical analyzer or scanner, and obtain a derivation for the sequence of tokens. From the tokens, it derives sequence of derivations from the sequence of tokens and further builds a parse tree, that is a hierarchical representation. Parse tree also called as derivation tree. Thus, if the program is syntactically correct, the parse tree is generated. Otherwise, the parse tree won't generate it. If a derivation for the sequence of tokens does not exist, that is, if the program is syntactically wrong, it results in syntax error and the parser displays the appropriate error messages. Like in the first page lexical analysis or scanner also, so it encounters errors, that is lexical error. Then how to handle lexical error? So we discussed in lexical analysis. Whereas in parser or syntax analysis also, errors are encountered. These errors are called as syntax errors. Then how to handle these syntax errors, that we will cover in this lecture. So now finally, the parse trees are very important in figuring out the meaning of a program or part of the program. That is use of parse tree. Now parse tree is also called as derivation tree generally, then syntax tree. But syntax tree, parse tree, there is slight difference we discussed in earlier lectures. Syntax tree does not require grammar, only string is required. But parse tree or derivation tree, grammar is required. There is a major difference between parse tree and syntax tree. Now let us see the role of the parser. So that can be shown in the following diagram. In compiler model, the parser obtains a string of tokens from the lexical analyzer, as shown in figure 1, and verifies that the string of token names can be generated by the grammar for the source language. So this is the role of the parser. Now diagrammatically you can see. So for lexical analysis also, we discussed the role of the lexical analysis or scanner. So that part of the diagram is here itself, it is included. Now this is the lexical analyzer, which takes input as the source program, then produces token, the token is taken as input to the parser. Then whenever parser wants next token using the method get next token, it takes the next parser. So up to this, that is the role of the lexical analyzer. Now we are discussing about parser, the role of the parser. With the same previous lexical analyzer part is continued. Now from parser, here you can see the output of parser is parse tree with a hierarchical representation. So later rest of the front end, other pages like semantic analysis, then intermediate code, code optimization, code generation. Those are all the backend pages. Finally, here you will get semantic analysis is the third phase of compiler. Semantic analysis, which produces abstract syntax tree, then that will be taken input to the next phase, that is intermediate code generator. So in the form of intermediate representation. Now here you can see symbol table is connected to all the phases. So in the phases of compiler block diagram, we can recall all phases are connected to symbol table and error handler. Each phase encounters error. So those errors are handled by using respective phase error recovery strategies. So this is a diagrammatic representation of the role of the parser. Here parser takes token from the lexical analyzer, then produces derivations. From the derivations, it constructs a parse tree or derivation tree. That is the role of the parser. So now here we expect the parser to report any syntax errors in an intelligible fashion and to recover from commonly occurring errors to continue processing the remainder of the program. So conceptually, for well-formed programs, the parser constructs a parse tree and passes it to the rest of the compiler for further processing. That is front end, rest of the part followed by back end. So in fact, the parse tree need not be constructed explicitly, since checking and translation actions can be dispersed with parsing only. Thus, the parser and rest of the front end would well be implemented by a single module. That is the advantage of the parser. So now there are various types of parsers or parsing techniques. So there are generally three general types of parsers for grammars. The first one is called as universal parser. Second one is called as top-down parser. Third one is called as bottom-up parser. As for syllabus, we will discuss about in detail with all the techniques of these two types of parsers, that is top-down parser and bottom-up parser. The universal parser is nothing but some of the universal parsing methods such as CYK algorithm in formal language and automata theory. Membership algorithm we discussed in context-free languages. So that is CYK, Cock, Anger, Kasami. And other algorithm, Early's algorithm. So both these algorithms can parse any grammar. These general methods are, however, too inefficient to use in production compilers. So this is the universal parser. So here, this we won't study here. CYK anyway, we already discussed in formal language and automata theory. So other algorithm, Early's algorithm, both algorithms can parse any grammar, but these general methods are too inefficient to use in production compilers. So now let us come to top-down parser and bottom-up parser. These two are very important. The methods commonly used in compilers can be classified as being either top-down parser or bottom-up parser. Now, what is top-down parser? As implied by their name, top-down method build parse tree from top root to bottom leaves. So construction of a parse tree or derivation tree from starting from root, then proceed towards leaves, that is the leaf nodes. This is called as top-down parser. Then whereas bottom-up parser, so starting with leaf nodes, then you can derive its root. This is called as bottom-up parsing. So now the bottom-up, while bottom-up methods start from the leaves and work their way to the root. So simply you can identify top-down parsing is nothing but root to leaves, whereas bottom-up parsing is nothing but leaves to root. In either case, the input to the parser is scanned from left to right only one symbol at a time. So this is the condition of reading of the input. So from left to right, one symbol at a time. So these are all the two types of parsers, top-down parser and bottom-up parser. So now before proceeding to further here itself, now we will list the parsing techniques. So these are all very important. In syntax analysis syllabus, we will study about all these techniques related to the two types of parsers. First, for top-down parser, we are having two techniques. First one is recursive descent parser with backtracking, then recursive descent parser with no backtracking. So this technique is called as predictive parser, which is called as LL parser. So in top-down parser, we will discuss these two techniques. Here, predictive parser LL1. So is important problem. So in examination, we will expect this question. LL1 parser. Then whereas bottom-up parser, so three techniques are there. First one is SLR parser, means simple LR. Then LALR parser means look ahead LR parser. Then CLR parser means canonical LR parser. So here for every parser we will discuss about here you can see SLR1 parser, LALR1 parser, then CLR1 parser. For all this we will discuss about algorithm, then parsing table construction, then parsing. How to do parsing? So these three, for every technique, we will discuss about these three topics: algorithm, table construction, then parsing. For LL1 also, algorithm, table construction method, then parsing with the example. So enter of the second unit, these 3 + 1, 4 topics. So related to problems. So definitely you will get 1 or 2 questions. If it is choice based, you will get 2 questions. So you have to concentrate more on this. Here for all these topics, continuity is required. Now, so let us compare these two with some efficient measures. The most efficient top-down and bottom-up methods work only for subclasses of grammars, but several of these classes, particularly LL, that is predictive parser, part of top-down parser, and LR grammars, that is bottom-up parser. So these two are expressive enough to describe most of the syntactic constructs in modern programming languages. Parsers implemented by hand often use LL grammars. For example, the predictive parsing approach works for LL grammars, whereas parsers for the large class of LR grammars are usually constructed using some automated tools. Like we have YSEC, parser automatic generator tool, at another compiler. So then coming to representative grammars. So here for parser, for construction of derivation tree or parse tree, then for describing programming language constructs, compulsory grammar is required here. So here what type of grammars are used? Now consider the expression grammar, arithmetic expression grammar. So name it as one shown below. So earlier also we discussed this example during the formal language and automata theory discussion of context-free grammar. So arithmetic grammar or expression grammar is defined as so E derives E plus T or T, then T derives T into F or F, then F derives E within parentheses or ID. Here C plus is the arithmetic operator, then star is the multiplication operator. So now here E stands for expression, E stands for expression, then T stands for term, then F stands for factor. So now that E represented within parentheses, then whereas ID, which can be denoted with boldface character, which is called as identifier. So in grammar we know G equal to VTSP, defined with 4 tuples, where capital V is nothing but a set of variables. Here the variables are ETF. So that is expression, term, and factor. Then where our terminals are the operators plus into, then the parenthesis, open parenthesis, closure parenthesis, then ID. These are all the terminals of this grammar. Then whereas starting variable S is E. Why? Because the first production left hand side symbol is called as starting variable. Then productions are, these are all the productions given. So this is one example of expression grammar. So we will use in syntax analysis or parser. Here E represents expression consisting of terms separated with plus sign. Then T represents terms consisting of factors separated with star. Then F represents factors that can be either parenthesized expression within parentheses or identifiers, what we discussed here. This expression grammar belongs to the class of LR grammars, so which are suitable for bottom-up parsing. So this grammar can be adapted to handle additional operations and additional levels of precedence. However, it cannot be used for top-down parser because it has left recursive. So here, this example grammar is suitable for bottom-up parsing, for not suitable for top-down parsing because it has left recursion. So the left recursion concept is nothing but left-hand side symbol is same as in the right-hand side leftmost symbol. If these two are same, then this is called as left recursion. Now in top-down parser, if any grammar having left recursion, we have to eliminate. That we will discuss later upcoming concepts. So the grammar without left recursion that can be used for top-down parsing. Then the grammar with left recursion used for bottom-up parsing. Now see one example of non-left recursive grammar. The following non-left recursive expression grammar, name it as 2, variant of the above expression grammar 1 will be used for top-down parsing. Now here you can see E derives TE dash, E dash derives plus TE dash or null, then T derives FT dash, then T dash derives star FT dash or null, then F derives E within parenthesis or ID. Now we can see this is not left recursive because the left-hand side variable is not same as the right-hand side of leftmost variable. So here E not equal to T. Then here E dash not equal to plus. Then here TF, T not equal to F. Then T dash star, only right-hand side leftmost symbol you can compare with the left-hand side of the variable of the each and every production. Here T dash not equal to star. Now here F, the first one is left parenthesis, don't see E. So therefore F not equal to left parenthesis. Therefore this is non-left recursive. Here left recursion is not there. This type of grammars are used for top-down parsing. Then another example, let us see the following grammar 3. So treats plus and asterisk alike. So it is useful for illustrating techniques for handling ambiguities during parsing. So these type of grammars are used for handling ambiguous grammars. So here you can see starting with the single variable. Here you have see the expression plus E, then multiplication E into E, then E within parenthesis or ID. So previously grammar 1 with ETF variables are there, but here only single variable with E. So these type of grammars used for handling ambiguous grammars. So here E represents expressions of all types. Then this grammar 3 permits more than one parse tree for expression like A plus B into C. Then that is called as ambiguous grammar. Ambiguous grammar. So in automata theory, we discussed about the concept of ambiguity, then how to eliminate ambiguity. Again, we will recall those concepts here. Then coming to syntax error handling. So during syntax analysis or parser, it encounters errors which are called as syntax errors. Here two strategies called panic mode recovery and phrase level recovery. So which are discussed in more detail in connection with specific parsing method. If a compiler had to process only correct programs, its design and implementation would be simplified greatly. However, a compiler is expected to assist the programmer in locating and tracking down errors that inevitably creep into programs, despite the programmer's best efforts. So whenever errors are encountered, then how to handle those errors? So using the two mechanisms, panic mode recovery and phrase level recovery. Some other techniques also there. Most programming language specifications do not describe how a compiler should respond to errors, whereas error handling is left to the compiler designer to handle or to rectify errors. Planning the error handling right from the start can both simplify the structure of a compiler and improve its handling of errors. So that is the use of error handling. Now, let us see various types of errors. Common programming errors can occur at many different levels. The first one is called a lexical error, which we already covered in lexical analysis or scanner. So lexical errors include misspellings of identified keywords or operators. For example, the use of an identifier, here you can see ELIP SE size. So instead of, actually this is ellipse size. Here this is misspelled and missing quotes around text instead of a string. So these type of errors are called as lexical errors. Those are all handled using lexical error handling. Then other type of errors, syntactic errors, which are related to our current phase, syntax analysis or parse. Syntactic errors also include misplaced semicolons or extra or missing braces. So that is the brace like this, open brace or closed brace. It may be extra braces or some missing braces. As another example, in C or Java programming languages, the appearance of a case statement without an enclosing switch, so is a syntactic error. However, this situation is usually allowed by the parser and caught later in the processing as the compiler attempts to generate code. So here a switch case enclosures are not there. So within the function with the arguments. So this is also one of the example. So these are all examples of syntactic errors. So which are handled by syntax analysis or parser. Then the third type of common error is called as semantic error, which is related to the third phase semantic analysis, which includes type mismatches between operators and operands. For example, the return of the value in a Java method with the result type void. So the type mismatch between operators and operands. These are all handled in third phase of compiler, that is semantic analysis. Then logical errors, next one. Logical errors can be anything from incorrect reasoning on the part of the programmer to use in a C program of the assignment operator equal instead of the comparison operator double equal. So equal and double equal, these two are not same. So these type of errors called as logical errors. The program containing equal may be well formed. However, it may not reflect the programmer's intent. These are all logical errors. Then these are all the commonly used programming errors with various phases. Then the precision of parsing methods allows syntactic errors to be detected very efficiently. Several parsing methods such as LL parser and LR parser methods detects an error as soon as possible. That is, when the stream of tokens from the lexical analyzer cannot be parsed further according to the grammar or the language. At that time, these errors or syntactic errors are occurred. Then more precisely, by considering viable prefix property in context-free language, we discussed in formal language and automata theory the concept of viable prefix property. So meaning that they detect that an error has occurred as soon as they see a prefix of the input that can't be completed to form a string in the language immediately by seeing the prefix of the input string. So another reason for emphasizing error recovery during parsing is that many errors appear syntactic, whatever their cause, and are exposed when parsing cannot continue. A few semantic errors also occurred, such as type mismatches can also be detected efficiently. However, accurate detection of semantic and logical errors at compile time is in general a difficult task. So to handle semantic and logical errors during compilation, that is very difficult task. Now, the error handler in Parser has some of the goals that are simple to state but challenging to realize. So what are the error handler goals in parsing or syntax analysis? That means the task needs to be performed. Report the presence of errors clearly and accurately. This is the first primary task. Then recover from each error quickly enough to detect subsequent errors. Then add minimal overhead to the processing of correct programs. So these three goals or tasks should handle by the parser in error handler during syntax errors. Then let us see the error recovery strategies with the detailed explanation. So types of error recovery strategies. Earlier we already mentioned two techniques: panic mode recovery, phrase level recovery. In addition to these two are primary error recovery strategies used in syntax analysis or parser to handle syntactic errors. In addition to these two error recovery strategies, two more error recovery strategies also included here. Those are all error productions and global correction. Finally, these four error recovery strategies are used to handle syntactic errors by parser or syntax analysis. Now we will see one by one with the detailed explanation. Then first one, panic mode recovery strategy. With this method, on discovering an error, the parser discards, means removes, input symbols one at a time until one of a designated set of synchronizing token is found. Then the synchronizing tokens are usually delimiters such as semicolon or the braces, whose role in the source program is clear and unambiguous. Unambiguous means without ambiguity, with clear. Then the compiler designer must select the synchronizing tokens appropriate for the source language. So these are all the various steps in panic mode recovery. Now, while panic mode correction often skips a considerable amount of input without checking it for additional errors, it has the advantage of simplicity, and unlike some methods to be considered later, is guaranteed not to go into an infinite loop. So for infinite loop, we don't have any guarantee. This is the simple method because of its simplicity. So that is a panic mode recovery strategy. Then coming to phrase level recovery, the second approach, phrase level recovery. On discovering an error, a parser may perform local correction within that particular method, within that particular program. So on the remaining input, that is, it may replace a prefix of the remaining input by some string that allows the parser to continue. For example, a typical local correction is to replace a comma by a semicolon. So comma is replaced with by a semicolon. Then delete an extraneous semicolon. Suppose we have two semicolons. So remove the extraneous semicolon. Then inserting a missing semicolon. Suppose here printf. So here semicolon is missed. So you can include. So these are all examples of local corrections which are occurred in phrase level recovery. The choice of local correction is left to the compiler designer later. So based on the requirements. So then here we must be careful to choose replacements that do not lead to infinite loops, as would be the case. For example, if we always inserted something on the input ahead of the current input symbol. So while inserting or replacing, you can take care of whether it leads to any infinite loop or not. Then phrase level replacement has been used in several error repairing compilers as it can correct any input string. One of the major drawback of this phrase level recovery is the difficulty it has in coping with situations in which the actual errors has occurred before the point of detection. So that means coping with situations arises in which the actual errors has occurred before the point of detection. This is one of the major drawback of phrase level recovery. Then coming to the third type of error recovery strategy, which is called as error productions. By anticipating common errors that might be encountered, we can augment the grammar for the language at hand with productions that generate the erroneous construct. So here we will substitute error productions. So to recover or rectify the errors. A parser constructed from a grammar augmented by these error productions detects the anticipated errors when an error production is used during parsing. Then the parser can then generate appropriate error diagnostics. We know the term diagnostic for corrections about the erroneous construct that has been recognized in the input. So by diagnosing by including error productions, that is error production strategy. Then the last mechanism, global correction. So ideally here we would like a compiler to make as few changes as possible in processing an incorrect input string. There are some algorithms for choosing a minimal sequence of changes to obtain globally with least cost correction, global correction. So commonly to that entire program. So give an incorrect input string X and a grammar G. These algorithms will find a parse tree for a related string Y such that the number of insertions, deletions, and changes of tokens required to transform X into Y is as small as possible. So this is the transformation for correcting globally. So this is global correction strategy. Now here, let us see some of the drawbacks of this method. Unfortunately, these methods are in general too costly to implement in terms of time and space. So these techniques are currently only of theoretical interest for practically. So we can't use more. So here, let us see one of the observation. A closest correct program may not be what the programmer had in mind. Nevertheless, the notation of least cost correction provides a yardstick for evaluating error recovery techniques and has been used for finding optimal replacement strings for phrase level recovery. So even if we can use any of these only optimal replacements of strings only. So these are some of the causes we have to consider for using the error recovery strategies. Okay, now let us come to summary of this lecture, what we discussed till now. As part of syntax analysis or parser introduction, we discussed about introduction to syntax analysis or parser, then the role of the parser, then representative grammars, then syntax error handling. Here we discussed various types of errors, then various error recovery strategies are demonstrated. Then for this lecture, you have to refer to second edition, section 4.1. Then next lecture, we will come up with the next new topic, which is context-free grammars. So CFG, where we studied in formal language and automata theory. So again, we will recall all the concepts, definition of the grammar, derivations, types of derivations, then partial derivation reconstruction, then ambiguity, then elimination of ambiguity. All these concepts again we will study in context-free grammars. Now I stop here.